I picked up the phone on December 26th, expecting to hear about my grandchildren's joy on Christmas morning. Instead, my daughter Amanda's voice came through flat, almost bored. I asked how dinner went at her house the night before. She paused, then said casually, "Oh, we didn't have room at the table. We invited his family only." The words landed like a sledgehammer to my chest. For 30 years, I'd raised her alone after her mother died. I paid for her wedding. I helped with the down payment on her house. Every holiday, every birthday, every moment that mattered, I was there. And now, suddenly, there was no room. I sat in my living room after we hung up, staring at the phone in my hand. The house felt colder than it had moments before. Outside, the neighbors' Christmas lights blinked red and green through my window, cheerful and oblivious. I looked at the empty chair across from me where I'd imagined my granddaughter Emma sitting just yesterday, telling me about Santa Claus. I'd spent over $500 on gifts for those kids, dropped them off on Christmas Eve. Amanda had barely opened the door, took the bags, said thanks, and closed it again before I could even glimpse inside. Now I understood why. My name is Virgil. I'm 67 years old, and I've lived in this house in suburban Ohio for 42 years. My wife Catherine and I bought it when Amanda was just a baby. Catherine died of ovarian cancer when Amanda was 7. I remember holding my little girl's hand at the funeral, watching her cry for her mama, promising her I'd always be there. And I was. I turned down a promotion that would have moved us to Seattle because I didn't want to uproot Amanda from her school, her friends, the only home she'd known after losing her mother. I worked 2 jobs for years. During the day, I was a supervisor at the manufacturing plant. At night and on weekends, I did bookkeeping for small businesses. I paid for Amanda's dance lessons, her summer camps, her college tuition at Ohio State. When she graduated with a degree in marketing, I was there in the crowd, cheering louder than anyone. When she met Derek at a friend's barbecue and fell in love, I welcomed him into our family. When they got engaged, I wrote the check for their wedding without hesitation. $12,000 for a beautiful ceremony and reception at a vineyard outside Columbus. 5 years of marriage, and I'd been a constant presence. Every Sunday, I'd drive the 20 minutes to their house in the suburbs for family dinner. I'd play with Emma, who just turned 4, and Lucas, who's 2. I'd help Derek fix things around the house. I'd listen to Amanda talk about her job at the marketing firm, her complaints about difficult clients, her dreams of getting promoted. I thought we were close. I thought I mattered. 3 weeks before Christmas, Amanda canceled our Sunday dinner. She said they needed family time. I assumed that still included me. I was family, wasn't I? It raised her. It sacrificed everything for her. But apparently, family time meant something different now. It meant Derek's parents, his 3 siblings and their spouses, his grandparents. 12 people around a table that could easily seat 14. There was room. Shed lied. I got up from my chair and walked to the mantel where photographs lined the wooden surface. Amanda as a baby in Catherine's arms. Amanda at her high school graduation. Amanda in her wedding dress, me walking her down the aisle. Amanda holding newborn Emma in the hospital while I stood beside her, tears in my eyes. In every picture, I was there, present, committed, loving. I picked up my phone again and opened Facebook. I rarely used it, but Amanda posted constantly. I scrolled through her feed and found what I was looking for. Photos from Christmas dinner. The table was set beautifully with a red tablecloth, gold-trimmed plates, candles flickering. 12 people smiled at the camera. Derek's mother had made a ham. The caption read, "So blessed to spend Christmas with family." Derek's mom made the best ham. I counted the faces. Derek's parents, his 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, their spouses, Derek's grandparents on his father's side, Derek and Amanda, 12 people. I zoomed in on the photo. The dining room table had 2 empty chairs at the far end. There was room. There had always been room. The exclusion wasn't an oversight. It was deliberate, calculated. Shed chosen to erase me. I set the phone down and walked into my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed and thought about everything he'd given up, everything he'd done. Catherine and I had dreamed of traveling when we retired. We never got that chance. After she died, I dreamed of it alone, but I put it off year after year because Amanda needed me, or so I thought. College expenses, wedding costs, the $10,000 check for their house down payment 2 years ago. Every birthday, every Christmas, generous gifts. Id lived modestly, saved carefully, all so I could help my daughter build her life. And this was my reward. Exclusion, erasure, a casual dismissal on the phone, as if my absence meant nothing. I didn't cry. I'm not a man who cries easily, but I felt something break inside me, something that had held firm for 67 years. It was the belief that love, real love, was reciprocated. That sacrifice was honored, that showing up mattered. It'd shown up for 30 years, and on the most important family day of the year, there was no room for me at the table. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Amanda's words. We didn't have room, as if I were a distant acquaintance, not her father, not the man who'd sat beside her hospital bed when she had pneumonia at age 9, not the man who'd taught her to drive, not the man who'd held her hand through her mother's death. The next morning, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table. The house was too quiet. It had always been quiet since Catherine died, but this felt different. This was the silence of abandonment. I thought about calling Amanda, asking her why, demanding an explanation, but what would that accomplish? Shed made her choice clear. I spent the morning in my woodshop in the garage. I'd taken up woodworking after Catherine passed. It gave me something to do with my hands, something to focus on besides the emptiness. I was building a bookshelf, sanding down the rough edges, measuring twice before cutting. The physical work calmed me, but my mind kept returning to that Facebook post. Those empty chairs at the table. Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. Both were good people, grounded and kind. It'd always been close to them, though admittedly, I'd spent more time with Amanda over the years. She was my daughter. She was supposed to be my priority. After I hung up with Karen, I sat in my workshop and made a decision. I needed to protect myself, not out of spite, but out of clarity. If Amanda had decided I wasn't family, then I needed to respect that decision in all aspects of my life. I called my attorney, Martin Hayes. I'd known Martin for 20 years. Head handled Catherine's will, helped me with estate planning, advised me on financial matters. His office was downtown Columbus, a modest practice on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. "Virgil," Martin said when I arrived the next morning. "Good to see you. What brings you in?" I sat across from his desk and explained the situation. Martin listened, his expression growing more somber as I spoke. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You want to change your will. I want to remove Amanda as my beneficiary. From everything." Martin pulled out a folder containing my current estate documents. We went through them line by line. My house, appraised at $400,000, was to go to Amanda. My retirement accounts, totaling $350,000, listed her as the sole beneficiary. My life insurance policy, $200,000, named her as well. My savings and investment accounts, another $80,000 would transfer to her upon my death. Total estate value, just over $1 million. That's a significant inheritance, Martin said carefully. "Are you certain you want to remove her completely? If I'm not family enough for Christmas dinner, I'm not family enough for inheritance." Martin nodded slowly. "I understand. Who would you like to designate instead?" I thought about it. Karen's kids, Emily and Grant. 50-50 split. And your grandchildren. That was harder. Emma and Lucas hadn't done anything wrong. They were innocent in all this. Set up a trust for them. $100,000 each, accessible when they turn 25. But Amanda can't touch it. Ever. Martin made notes. That's wise. It protects the children while ensuring Amanda doesn't benefit from your estate. We spent the next 3 hours going through paperwork. Martin drafted new documents, removing Amanda's name from every page. I signed each one, feeling both relieved and heartbroken. This wasn't what Id wanted. He'd imagined leaving Amanda a comfortable inheritance, knowing she'd be taken care of after I was gone. But Shed made it clear she didn't value what he'd given her in life. Why would death be any different? As I stood to leave, Martin said, "I hope you two can reconcile." So do I, but my dignity isn't for sale. I walked out into the cold January afternoon. The sky was gray, threatening snow. I drove home slowly, thinking about all the ways life can break your heart. Losing Catherine had shattered me, but this was different. Catherine's death was beyond anyone's control. Amanda's betrayal was a choice. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a few minutes, hands on the steering wheel. My phone rang. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I considered not answering, but I picked up. "Hi, Dad." Her voice was bright, cheerful, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't excluded me from Christmas. "I have a huge favor to ask." I waited. "Derek and I are going to a resort in the mountains this Friday through Sunday. It's our anniversary. Derek's parents can't watch the kids, and his siblings are all busy. You're always so reliable. Can you watch Emma and Lucas?" The audacity of it took my breath away. She needed me now. After excluding me, after making it clear I wasn't family. Now, suddenly, I was reliable grandpa again. Something in me shifted. A line was crossed that I couldn't uncross. "No," I said simply. Silence on the other end. Then, "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not available." "Dad, we've already booked the resort. We need you." "I'm sorry. I can't help you." "Dad, this is ridiculous. It's just one weekend." "Amanda, I'm not available. You'll need to find someone else." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. In 35 years of being her father, it never refused her anything. Not dance lessons when money was tight. Not a car for her 16th birthday. Not college tuition. Not the wedding. Not the down payment. It always said yes. But I couldn't anymore. She'd drawn the boundary. I was just respecting it. My phone rang again immediately. I didn't answer. It rang 4 more times over the next hour. Each time, I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened to the messages, Amanda's tone shifted from confusion to irritation to outright anger. First message: "Dad, call me back. I don't understand what's going on." Second message: "This is important. We really need you this weekend." Third message: "You're being selfish. We don't ask you for much." Fourth message: "Fine. If you want to be like this, don't expect to see your grandchildren anytime soon." The threat was clear. She was weaponizing Emma and Lucas, using them as leverage to manipulate me into compliance. But I'd learned something in the past 48 hours. Love without respect isn't love. It's exploitation. And I was done being exploited. That evening, Derek called. His voice was cold, entitled. "Virgil, we don't ask you for much. You can watch the kids for one weekend." "Actually, Derek, you ask quite a bit. And apparently, I'm not family enough to have Christmas dinner with you." He paused. That was Amanda's decision. "Don't punish us for that. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply unavailable. This is childish. Perhaps. But it's my choice, just like excluding me from Christmas was yours." I hung up and blocked both their numbers. I needed space, clarity, time to figure out who I was outside of being Amanda's father. The next 2 days brought a barrage of text messages before I blocked their numbers. Each one revealed more about who Amanda had become. "After everything I've done for you." I stared at that message for a long time. After everything she'd done for me. What had she done? I'd raised her. I'd sacrificed for her. What had she given me besides exclusion and contempt? Another message: "You're being ridiculous over a dinner." It wasn't about the dinner. It never was. It was about being erased, being deemed unworthy, being dismissed. The final message before I blocked her read, "The kids are going to be so disappointed." That one hurt the most. Not because it was true, but because she was using Emma and Lucas as weapons. Children should never be weaponized. I knew that better than anyone. When Catherine died, it made sure Amanda never felt like a burden, never felt like she was anything but loved. And now my daughter was doing the opposite, using her children to manipulate and control. I spent those days in my woodshop, finding solace in the smell of sawdust and the rhythm of sanding. I finished the bookshelf and started on a rocking chair. My hands knew what to do even when my heart was breaking. On Thursday evening, Karen called again. I heard from Amanda. She's upset. I imagine she is. She said you refused to watch the kids and that you're being unreasonable. I told Karen everything. The Christmas exclusion, the phone call asking for babysitting, the entitled text messages. Karen listened without interrupting. "You did the right thing," she said finally. "Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's self-respect." She threatened to keep the grandchildren from me. "Shay's manipulating you. Don't let her." Karen invited me to dinner on Sunday. I accepted gratefully. I needed to be around family, real family, people who valued my presence. Sunday dinner at Karen's house was exactly what I needed. Her home was warm and welcoming, filled with laughter. Emily and Grant were there with their significant others. We ate pot roast and mashed potatoes, talked about work and life, reminisced about old times when everyone was young and life was simpler. At one point, Emily mentioned she hadn't seen Amanda in over a year. Really, I was surprised. I didn't know that. "She's been distant," Emily said carefully. "Every time I invite her to something, she's busy with Derek's family." Grant added, "Seems like they've taken up all her time." I realized then that Amanda hadn't just excluded me. She'd been systematically cutting ties with my entire side of the family. Karen, Emily, Grant, everyone connected to me and Catherine. She was rewriting her history, erasing her roots. After dinner, I helped Karen with dishes while Tom and the kids watched football in the living room. "How are you really doing?" Karen asked as she handed me a plate to dry. "Honestly, I'm heartbroken, but I'm also relieved." Relieved. I spent 30 years trying to be enough for her. Turns out I never was. Now I can stop trying. Karen put her hand on my arm. "You were always enough, Virgil. More than enough. Shay's the one who changed." I drove home that night, feeling lighter than I had in days. I had family. I had people who cared. Amanda's rejection hurt, but it didn't define me. Monday morning, I woke to an email notification from my bank. Unusual account activity. I opened it immediately, my stomach sinking. Someone had attempted to charge $2,000 to my credit card. The charge was declined because I'd set a $1,500 spending limit years ago as a security measure. I called the bank immediately. The representative pulled up the transaction details. The charge was attempted at Mountain Vista Resort by Amanda Patterson. My own daughter, had tried to charge her anniversary vacation to my credit card without asking. She had the card information from 2 years ago when her car broke down, and I let her use my card for the emergency repair. I'd trusted her with it. Shed kept the information, and now, without permission, without even a phone call, Shed tried to charge a $2,000 resort stay. The entitlement was staggering. After excluding me from Christmas, after demanding I babysit, after threatening to withhold my grandchildren. Now this. "I need to cancel this card and issue a new one," I told the representative. "Of course, sir. I'll process that right away." I hung up and immediately forwarded the email to my personal account. Documentation, evidence. I didn't know what it needed for, but I knew I needed it. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Why did you cancel your credit card?" Amanda's voice was furious, shaking with rage. "We needed that for our trip. You tried to charge your vacation to my card without asking. I figured you wouldn't mind. You always help us out. The assumption that my money was hers to use without permission. The assumption that my resources were available on demand." I felt anger rising, hot and sharp. Helping out is when someone asks, "What you did is theft." It's not theft. You're my father. That doesn't give you the right to my credit card. She sputtered, searching for justification. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Amanda, you excluded me from Christmas. You demanded I babysit when you needed something. You threatened to keep my grandchildren from me, and now you've stolen from me. This isn't nothing. I didn't steal. And Christmas was just one dinner. You're being dramatic. If it was just one dinner, why did it happen at all? Why wasn't there room for me? Derek's family is important to him. I have to prioritize my marriage. And where do I fall in your priorities? Silence, long and heavy. Finally, she said, "You're making this about you. As always." The comment landed like a slap. As always. I'd spent my entire life putting her first. Every decision, every sacrifice, every choice was about her well-being, her future, her happiness. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. I hadn't realized she was outside until I heard pounding on my front door. She must have driven over during our phone call. I hung up and walked to the door. Through the window, I saw her standing there, face red with anger. I opened the door. She pushed past me into the house. "We need to talk about this," she demanded. "There's nothing to talk about. You've made your position clear." "My position? You're the one refusing to help your own family. I am helping my family. I'm helping myself by setting boundaries." She scoffed. "Boundaries? Is that what you're calling this? Abandoning your grandchildren?" "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm simply not available every time you need something while being excluded from your life the rest of the time. It was one Christmas. It wasn't about Christmas." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. It was about being erased, about not mattering, about 30 years meaning nothing. "You always do this. You always make everything about you." I stared at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, and realized I didn't know her anymore. Somewhere along the way, Shed becomes someone I didn't recognize. Someone entitled and selfish and cruel. "I'd like you to leave now." She stood there, defiant. "Fine, but don't expect to see Emma and Lucas anytime soon." She walked out, slamming the door behind her. I stood in my living room, heart pounding, and felt the finality of it. This wasn't a fight we'd recover from quickly. This was a rupture. I spent the rest of the day documenting everything. I wrote down dates, conversations, the credit card incident. I took screenshots of text messages before I'd blocked her number. I printed the bank email. I didn't know why I was doing it, but something told me I'd need evidence of what had happened. That evening, my phone rang. An unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Virgil, this is Patricia, Derek's mother." I was surprised. Patricia and I had always been cordial, but never close. We'd chatted at family gatherings, exchanged pleasantries. But that was it. "Hello, Patricia. I heard about what happened at Christmas. I'm so sorry. You knew I wasn't invited. I found out after. Derek told me there wasn't enough room, but I saw the table. There was plenty of room." My throat tightened. "Why are you calling?" "Because what Amanda did was wrong, and because I think you should know something." She paused, and I waited. "Amanda told Derek she didn't want you there because you make everything about yourself. She's been saying this for months, that you're overbearing, controlling, that you guilt-trip her constantly." I sat down heavily on my couch. None of that was true. I'd always given Amanda space, respected her choices, supported her decisions. Even when I disagreed, I stayed quiet. Patricia continued. "I've met you many times, Virgil. You've always been gracious and kind. What she's saying doesn't match the man I know. Why would she say those things? I think she's building a narrative, justifying pushing you out. I don't know why, but it's calculated. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. She's been planning it." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room and felt the full weight of betrayal. Amanda hadn't just excluded me from Christmas. She had been systematically destroying my reputation with Derek's family for months. painting me as a villain to justify her cruelty. This wasn't an oversight. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, methodical destruction of our relationship, and I had no idea why. 3 weeks passed in silence. No calls, no texts, no contact. I threw myself into my routine, trying to find normalcy in the chaos. I went to work at the plant, came home, spent evenings in my woodshop. I attended church on Sundays, had coffee with old friends, visited Karen and her family. Life continued, but there was a hollowness to it that hadn't been there before. I found myself thinking about Catherine often during those weeks. What would she say if she could see what Amanda had become? Would she recognize our daughter? Would she know how to fix this? At night, I'd lie in bed and remember Amanda as a little girl, her gap-toothed smile, her excitement over the smallest things, the way she'd climb into my lap and say, "Tell me a story, Daddy." I'd tell her about her mother, keeping Catherine's memory alive through stories. I'd thought I was doing the right thing, building a foundation of love and security. Where had I gone wrong? On a Saturday morning, 3 weeks and 2 days after our confrontation, my phone rang. "Emily, Uncle Virgil, I need to tell you something. I ran into Amanda yesterday." Okay, she wasn't alone. She was with a man, not Derek. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "They were at the grocery store, holding hands, laughing, very intimate." I said hello, and Amanda looked like she'd seen a ghost. She introduced him as a friend from work. His name was Brad. But Uncle Virgil, the way they were together, that wasn't friendship. I closed my eyes. "Are you sure? I'm 32 years old. I know what an affair looks like." After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and tried to process this new information. Amanda was having an affair, cheating on Derek, betraying her marriage, and suddenly, everything made sense. The distance, the exclusion, the new priorities. She was reinventing herself, creating a new life, and I was part of the old one she was trying to leave behind. But what about Emma and Lucas? What about Derek? Despite everything, Derek didn't deserve this. Had been a good husband, a good father, had worked hard to provide for his family. I struggled with what to do. Should I tell Derek? Should I stay silent? Was it my place to interfere? I called my pastor, Reverend Thomas, and asked to meet. We sat in his office at the church that afternoon, and I told him everything. "What do I do?" I asked. "Do I tell Derek?" Reverend Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Truth has a way of revealing itself, but cruelty in marriage affects the children most. Those babies don't deserve to be caught in this. So, I stay silent. I'm saying pray about it, seek guidance. Don't act out of anger or revenge. Act out of love for those children. I prayed that night, not for Amanda, not for me, but for Emma and Lucas. They were innocent in all this. Whatever happened between the adults, those children needed protection. 2 days later, on Monday afternoon, Derek called me. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Virgil, can we talk? I need advice." Of course. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near his office. I arrived first and sat in a corner booth, away from other customers. Derek walked in 15 minutes later. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Unshaven, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion. He sat across from me and didn't speak for a long moment. Finally, he said, "I think Amanda's having an affair." I waited, letting him talk. I found text messages. She's been deleting them, but I recovered some from the cloud backup. "There's a guy named Brad. They've been seeing each other. I don't know for how long. I'm sorry, Derek." I confronted her. She denied it at first, then got angry. Said I was paranoid, but I know what I saw. He looked up at me, his eyes red. "What do I do? What do you want to do?" "I love her, or I love who she used to be. But she's not that person anymore. She's become someone I don't recognize. Cold, distant, mean." He paused, rubbing his face with his hands. "The worst part? She's been turning me against you. For months, She's been telling me you're toxic, that you manipulate her, that you make everything about yourself. I believed her. I'm sorry, Virgil. I should have questioned it, but I trusted her. It's okay. It's not okay. Sitting here now, I realize none of it was true. You've always been good to us. You've been there for the kids. You've helped us with money, with babysitting, with everything. And she repaid you by excluding you from Christmas and treating you like garbage. I didn't know what to say. Derek's pain was palpable, filling the space between us. I found out something else, he said quietly. She told me she wants a divorce. The coffee shop suddenly felt too loud. People laughing, the espresso machine hissing, music playing overhead. All of it felt wrong for this moment. She wants to leave me, take the kids, move in with this Brad guy. She said I'm not ambitious enough, that I don't make enough money, that she deserves better. Derek, I'm so sorry. She said something else, too. He looked at me directly. She said your side of the family is beneath her now, that she's moving up in the world and doesn't need people who hold her back. The words hit me like physical blows. Beneath her, Catherine's family, my family, the people who'd loved her, supported her, been there through everything. We were beneath her. I need to ask you something, Derek said, his voice shaking. Would you testify in court about her character? For custody. I understood immediately what he was asking. If they divorced, there would be a custody battle. Derek wanted primary custody of Emma and Lucas. He wanted me to testify against my own daughter. I don't want to hurt her, Derek continued, but those kids need stability. They need a parent who puts them first. Amanda is so focused on this new life, this new man. She's forgetting about Emma and Lucas. Last week, she forgot to pick up Emma from preschool. The school had to call me. When I asked Amanda about it, she said she was at lunch with a client. But I checked with her office. She wasn't at lunch with a client. She was with Brad. I thought about my grandchildren. Emma with her curly hair and bright laugh. Lucas with his chubby hands and curious eyes. They deserved better than this. They deserved parents who put them first. I'll testify, I said quietly. Not to hurt Amanda, but to protect those kids. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. We sat in that coffee shop for another hour, talking about next steps. Derek had already consulted with an attorney, a woman named Helen Crawford who specialized in family law. The divorce papers would be filed within the week. Custody hearings would follow. As we stood to leave, Derek said, I'm sorry for everything, for Christmas, for believing what Amanda said about you, for not standing up for you. You're not responsible for her choices. Maybe not, but I should have been smarter. I should have seen who she was becoming. We shook hands, and I watched him walk to his car. He looked defeated, broken, a good man destroyed by the woman he loved. I drove home slowly, thinking about the path ahead. Testifying against Amanda meant severing whatever remained of our relationship. It meant choosing sides. It meant potential alienation from my grandchildren if she got custody. But it also meant doing what was right. And sometimes, love means making the hard choice, even when it breaks your heart. That night, I pulled out all my documentation, the timeline of events, the credit card fraud attempt, the threatening text messages, Patricia's phone call, everything he'd carefully recorded. I organized it all into a folder and called Derek to let him know I had evidence that might help his case. What kind of evidence? He asked. I told him everything. The Christmas exclusion, the financial manipulation, the threats to withhold my grandchildren, Amanda's pattern of behavior over the past months. This is helpful, Derek said. Helen will want to see all of it. I met with Helen Crawford 2 days later. Her office was downtown, modern and professional. She was in her late 40s, sharp-eyed and direct. Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming in. Derek told me about your situation with Amanda. I handed her the folder. She spent 30 minutes reviewing everything, taking notes, asking questions. This paints a clear picture, she said finally. Amanda has been systematically manipulating multiple people. The financial fraud attempt is particularly damaging, combined with the affair and her treatment of you. It suggests a pattern of self-centered behavior that impacts her ability to parent effectively. I don't want to destroy her, I said. I just want to protect my grandchildren. I understand. And honestly, this isn't about destruction. It's about truth. The court needs to see who these people really are to make the best decision for the children. Over the next few weeks, preparations continued. Derek filed for divorce. Amanda was served papers at work, apparently causing a scene. She immediately hired her own attorney and began her counteroffensive. She called me once during this time. I answered. "How could you do this?" she screamed. "You're testifying against me? Your own daughter. I'm testifying for Emma and Lucas. You're a traitor. You're choosing Derek over me. I'm choosing the truth over lies." She hung up. That was the last time we spoke before the hearing. The custody hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks after Derek filed for divorce. 6 weeks of tension, of preparation, of knowing that whatever happened in that courtroom would change all our lives forever. I spent those weeks praying, working, spending time with Karen's family. Emily and Grant were supportive, both offering to testify if needed. Karen held my hand through the difficult moments, reminding me I was doing the right thing. The night before the hearing, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Amanda as a little girl, wondering where I'd lost her, wondering if I could have done something different, been someone different, to prevent this. But deep down, I knew the truth. Amanda had made her choices. And now, we all had to live with the consequences. The courthouse was cold and impersonal, all marble floors and fluorescent lights. I arrived early, dressed in my best suit, the folder of evidence tucked under my arm. Derek was already there with Helen, sitting on a bench outside the courtroom. He stood when he saw me. "Thank you for being here," he said. I nodded. Words felt inadequate. Amanda arrived 20 minutes later. She was with Brad, a tall man in an expensive suit, his hair perfectly styled. He looked like the kind of man who'd never worked with his hands, never struggled for anything. Amanda wore a conservative dress, her hair pulled back, makeup perfect. She looked like she was going to a job interview, not a custody hearing for her children. When she saw me, her face twisted with rage. She whispered something to Brad, who smirked and put his arm around her possessively. They walked past us without acknowledgement. I swore to tell the truth and sat in the witness box. Helen approached with a kind but professional demeanor. "Mr. Anderson, you're Amanda Patterson's father, correct?" "Yes. Can you describe your relationship with your daughter over the years?" I talked about raising Amanda alone after Catherine died, about sacrificing for her education, her wedding, her home, about being a constant presence in her life and in her children's lives. "And what happened this past Christmas?" Helen asked. I described the phone call, the casual exclusion, the Facebook photos showing empty chairs at a table that could have accommodated me. "How did that make you feel?" "Heartbroken, confused. After 30 years of showing up for every important moment, I wasn't worth a seat at the table." Helen pulled out documents. "Mr. Anderson, can you tell the court what happened on January 7th of this year?" I explained the credit card fraud attempt, how Amanda had tried to charge a $2,000 vacation without permission, using information she'd kept from years ago. "Did she ask your permission?" "No. She simply tried to use my card. And when you confronted her about it, she said she figured I wouldn't mind, that I always helped them out. She didn't see it as wrong." Amanda's attorney, a sharp-faced man named Robert Chen, objected. "Relevance, Your Honor. It speaks to character," Helen responded. "A pattern of entitlement and manipulation. Judge Sullivan allowed it." Helen continued. "Mr. Anderson, did Amanda make any threats regarding your grandchildren?" I recounted the text message threatening to keep Emma and Lucas from me if I didn't comply with her demands. She weaponized the children. "Yes." Helen entered all my documentation into evidence. The bank email. Derek's mother corroborated everything about Christmas, confirming there had been room at the table, that Amanda had deliberately excluded me, and that she'd been building a negative narrative about me for months. A child psychologist testified next. Dr. Sarah Martinez had evaluated both children. She explained that Emma had shown signs of anxiety since the separation began. Bedwetting, nightmares, clinginess. Lucas was too young to articulate his feelings, but his behavior had become more aggressive, likely mirroring the tension in the home. In your professional opinion, Helen asked, what custody arrangement would be in the best interest of these children? Stability is crucial at this age. They need a primary home with consistent routines and a parent who's emotionally present. Based on my evaluation, Mr. Patterson provides that stability. Mrs. Patterson's focus appears to be elsewhere. Amanda's attorney called character witnesses on her behalf. A co-worker who said Amanda was dedicated and professional. A neighbor who'd seen her at the playground with the kids. But under cross-examination, both admitted they'd seen less of Amanda in recent months, that she'd been distracted and unavailable. Then Amanda took the stand. She looked composed, practiced. She'd been coached well. Her attorney led her through a narrative where she was the victim. Derek was neglectful. I was controlling. She'd excluded me from Christmas because I made everyone uncomfortable with my constant need for attention. The credit card incident was a misunderstanding. She'd intended to ask permission but forgot. The affair with Brad hadn't started until after she and Derek had separated emotionally. But Helen's cross-examination dismantled every claim. Mrs. Patterson, you stated the credit card use was a misunderstanding. But you never called your father to ask permission, did you? I meant to. You meant to, but you didn't. You simply used his card without consent. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain to the court how using someone's credit card without permission isn't theft. Amanda faltered. As my father, I didn't think he'd mind. But he did mind, didn't he? And when he confronted you, you became angry. You didn't apologize. You justified it. I was upset. Helen pulled out phone records. These records show you've been in contact with Brad Morris for 8 months. Text messages, phone calls, often late at night. Would you say your relationship with Mr. Morris is appropriate for a married woman? We're friends. Friends who spend 3 to 4 nights per week together. Friends who text each other, I love you, and I can't wait to be with you. Amanda's face flushed. Derek and I were already having problems, so you sought comfort in another man instead of working on your marriage. It's not that simple. Actually, Mrs. Patterson, it is. You made a choice. You chose to pursue a relationship with Brad Morris while still married, while still living with your husband and children. That's called infidelity. The judge called for a recess. We stood in the hallway, Derek pacing nervously. Helen seemed confident but cautious. It's going well, she said, but judges can be unpredictable. During the recess, I went to the restroom. As I washed my hands, Brad walked in. We were alone. He stood at the sink next to mine, smirking. You're wasting your time, old man. Amanda and I are building a new life. Those kids will forget about Derek soon enough. I dried my hands slowly, looking at him in the mirror. And when she gets bored of you, when someone wealthier comes along, what then? He laughed. That won't happen. The upgrade. That's exactly what Derek thought. Brad's smirk faltered slightly, but he recovered, his arrogance intact. Whatever helps you sleep at night. He left, and I stood there, staring at my reflection. I'd met men like Brad before. All surface, no substance. Men who measured worth in dollar signs and saw people as acquisitions. When I returned to the hallway, I saw Amanda standing alone near a window. Brad was on his phone nearby, his back to her. She was staring out at the city, her face unreadable. For a moment, just a moment, I saw my little girl again. The one who'd climbed into my lap and asked for stories. The one who'd held my hand at her mother's funeral. And my heart broke all over again. But then Brad finished his call and approached her. As he got close, I heard him say to someone else, yeah, once the divorce is done and she moves in, he'll have her sign a prenup. I'm not stupid. Amanda froze. Heard. Her face went pale. She turned to Brad. A prenup. He realized Shed overheard. It's just smart business, babe. You never mentioned a prenup. Well, talk about it later. He tried to smile, to smooth it over, but the damage was done. Amanda looked at him, really looked at him, and I saw something shift in her eyes. Recognition. Understanding. Shed thrown away her marriage, her family, her relationship with me, all for a man who saw her as a liability. But it was too late. The hearing resumed. The judge listened to closing arguments from both attorneys. Then she reviewed her notes, the evidence, the testimony. The courtroom was silent, tense. Finally, Judge Sullivan looked up. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony presented today. This is a difficult case, as all custody cases are. However, my primary concern is the well-being of Emma and Lucas Patterson. She paused, and I held my breath. Mrs. Patterson has demonstrated a pattern of behavior that concerns this court. The affair, the financial impropriety with her father's credit card, the threats to withhold the children from their grandfather, all suggest a person whose priorities are not focused on her children's best interests. Amanda's face crumpled. Mr. Patterson has demonstrated stability, commitment, and appropriate priorities. The testimony from Dr. Martinez confirms that the children are suffering anxiety in the current situation and need consistent, stable care. Judge Sullivan looked directly at Amanda. Therefore, I am awarding primary physical custody to Derek Patterson. Mrs. Patterson will have supervised visitation every other weekend until such time as she can demonstrate improved stability and judgment. Patterson is granted the family home. Mrs. Patterson has 30 days to relocate. The gavel came down. Amanda collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Brad looked uncomfortable, already stepping away from her emotionally. Derek closed his eyes, exhaling with relief. Helen squeezed Derek's shoulder. It's over. But I knew it wasn't over. Not really. This was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where everyone had to figure out how to move forward. Outside the courthouse, Amanda stood alone on the steps. Brad had disappeared, suddenly needing to take an urgent phone call. The message was clear. He was already distancing himself from her failure. Derek walked past her without a word, heading to his car to call his mother with the news. Helen followed him, giving final instructions about next steps. I stood on the sidewalk, briefcase in hand, watching my daughter fall apart. Every instinct told me to go to her, to comfort her, to be the father he'd always been. But I stayed where I was. She looked up and saw me. For a moment, our eyes met across the distance. I saw pain, anger, regret, confusion, all warring in her expression. Then she turned and walked away, shoulders shaking with sobs. I drove home in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on me. I'd won, if winning meant protecting my grandchildren, but it felt like losing. It felt like watching your child destroy themselves and being powerless to stop it. The next few months were difficult for everyone. Derek worked with his attorney to formalize the custody arrangement and the divorce settlement. Amanda moved out of the family home into a small apartment across town. Brad broke up with her 2 weeks after the hearing, just as I'd predicted. Without the promise of a comfortable life funded by Derek's house and assets, Brad lost interest quickly. Amanda's supervised visitations with Emma and Lucas were awkward and strained, according to Derek. The children didn't understand why Mommy didn't live with them anymore. Emma asked repeatedly when things would go back to normal. Lucas cried every time Amanda dropped him off after visits. I saw the kids regularly now. Derek invited me over for Sunday dinners again, re-establishing our tradition. I'd play with Emma and Lucas, read them stories, help with bedtime routines. They needed stability and love, and I was determined to provide it. Derek started dating again, carefully and slowly. He met a woman named Claire who taught second grade at Emma's school. She was kind, patient, and genuinely good with the children. I met her at one of Derek's barbecues, and I liked her immediately. She had warmth in her eyes and listened when people talked, really listened. 6 months after the custody ruling, Amanda called me. I hadn't heard from her since the courthouse. "Dad, can we meet? I'd like to talk." I agreed, cautiously. We met at a coffee shop on neutral ground, neither of our neighborhoods. She looked different, thinner, tired. Her hair was pulled back simply, no fancy styling. She wore jeans and a plain sweater. The polished, ambitious version of Amanda was gone, replaced by someone who looked beaten down by life. We ordered coffee and sat across from each other. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Amanda said, "I'm sorry." 2 words, simple and insufficient for everything that had happened, but they were a start. "I've been in therapy," she continued, "twice a week, trying to understand what happened to me, why I did what I did." I waited, letting her talk. "My therapist says I got caught up in status and image, that I was trying to be someone I thought I should be instead of who I am. Derek's family is wealthy, successful. Brad was even more so. I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted to matter. You always mattered," I said quietly. "I know that now, but I didn't then, or I forgot. I looked at my life and saw a middle-class existence, and I wanted more. I wanted to be impressive, important, and in chasing that, I destroyed everything real." She wiped her eyes with a napkin. "I lost myself, Dad. I became someone Mom would have been ashamed of. Someone I'm ashamed of. I thought about Catherine, about the woman she'd been. Kind, generous, humble. Shed never cared about status or image. Shed cared about family and love and doing right by people. Your mother would want you to learn from this," I said. "To become better. I'm trying. I really am. The therapy is helping. I'm working on being present during my visits with Emma and Lucas. Not trying to be the perfect mom or win them over with gifts. Just being there. That's good. I know I can't undo what I did. To you, to Derek, to the kids. But I want to be better. I want to be the person you and Mom raised me to be." We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her job, how she'd been demoted after the divorce drama affected her work, about her small apartment and struggling to make ends meet, about the loneliness of realizing all the people she'd cultivated relationships with for status had disappeared when she lost everything. As we stood to leave, she asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" "I already forgive you," I said, "but trust takes time to rebuild. I understand." Over the next year, Amanda worked on herself. She continued therapy, showed up consistently for her visitation with the kids, and stopped trying to be anything other than a decent mother in person. The supervised visitations eventually became unsupervised as she proved her stability. She reached out to me regularly, asking about my life, actually listening to the answers. She apologized to Karen, Emily, and Grant for cutting them out. She congratulated Derek and Claire when they got engaged, genuinely and without bitterness. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't easy, but slowly, painfully, Amanda rebuilt bridges she'd burned. Derek and Claire got married in a small ceremony at their church. Emma was the flower girl. Lucas, the ring bearer. Amanda attended, sitting in the back, crying quietly through the whole ceremony. Not tears of jealousy or regret for losing Derek, but tears of recognition that this was what Derek and the kids deserved. Stability, love, peace. I sat with Amanda at the reception afterward. We watched Emma dance with her new stepmother, both of them laughing. "Claire's good for them," Amanda said. "She is. I'm glad Derek found her. He deserves happiness." It was the first truly selfless thing I'd heard her say in years. Another 6 months passed. It was late November, almost 2 years since the Christmas that had started everything. I was in my wood shop when Amanda called. "Dad, I have something to tell you." My heart sank. "Please, not more drama." "I got a promotion at work, regional manager. It's good money, better hours. I wanted you to be the first to know." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Thank you." "And Dad?" "Derek and Claire are hosting Thanksgiving. They invited me and asked if I'd like to help cook. I said yes. Will you be there?" "I will." "Good. I'd like us all to be together, as a family. The weird, complicated, messy family we are." Thanksgiving was everything I'd hoped for. Derek and Claire's house was filled with warmth and laughter. Emma and Lucas ran around playing, happy and secure. Derek's parents were there, as well as Karen, Emily, and Grant. Amanda brought sweet potato casserole and didn't try to take over or make everything about her. She helped in the kitchen, played with the kids, and thanked Derek and Claire for including her. At dinner, Derek stood to say grace, but before he began, he looked around the table. "I'm grateful for all of you, for second chances, for forgiveness, for family in all its forms." He looked at Amanda, then at me. "This hasn't been easy, but we're here, together, and that matters." We held hands around the table, and Derek led us in prayer. I looked at my family, broken and rebuilt, and felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Christmas approached again, bringing with it memories of the previous year's pain. But this year felt different. Derek and Claire asked if they could host Christmas dinner. "Wed like everyone there," Claire said when she called to invite me. "You, Karen's family, Derek's parents, and Amanda. One big gathering." "Are you sure?" I asked. "That's a lot of people. We have the room," she said warmly. "And it's time. Emma keeps asking why we can't all be together for Christmas." The dinner was planned for Christmas evening. I spent the morning at church, then drove to their house with gifts for everyone. The street was lined with cars when I arrived. Through the front window, I could see people moving around inside, the glow of Christmas lights, the shape of a large tree in the living room. I rang the doorbell, and Emma answered, wearing a red velvet dress and a huge smile. "Grandpa Virgil." She threw her arms around my legs. "We're having a party." Inside, the house was beautifully decorated. Garland on the staircase, stockings hung by the fireplace, the smell of ham and baking bread filling the air. Derek's parents were in the living room with Karen and Tom. Emily and Grant were helping Claire in the kitchen. Lucas was playing with toy cars on the floor, and Amanda was there. Setting the table, she looked up when I walked in. We hadn't seen each other in person since Thanksgiving. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, sweetheart." She walked over and hugged me. Not a quick, obligatory hug, but a real one. I hugged her back, feeling the fragility of this moment, this rebuilding. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "Thank you for being here." Derek came over with Claire. "Glad you made it, Virgil. Can I get you something to drink?" The afternoon passed in comfortable chaos. Children playing, adults talking, food being prepared. I found myself in the kitchen with Derek's mother, Patricia, chopping vegetables for salad. "This is nice," she said, "having everyone together." "It is. You know, I've watched what happened with your family over the past 2 years. The falling apart and the coming back together. It's been hard, I know. But you handled it with dignity." "I don't know about that." "You did. You set boundaries when you needed to. You stood up for what was right. But you never stopped loving Amanda, even when she gave you every reason to. She's my daughter. Yes. And you're a good father, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard." Dinner was served at 6. The table was extended with 2 extra leaves to accommodate everyone. 16 people sat down together. Derek at the head, Claire beside him, Emma and Lucas in booster seats nearby. Derek's parents, his siblings and their families, Karen and Tom, Emily and Grant, me and Amanda. I looked at that table, at all those faces, and remembered last year's exclusion, the empty chairs and the Facebook photo, the casual cruelty of we didn't have room. This year, they'd made room for everyone. Before we ate, Derek asked if anyone wanted to share what they were grateful for. It went around the table. People mentioned health, family, jobs, blessings big and small. When it came to Amanda, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'm grateful for second chances, for people who loved me enough to let me fail and still welcomed me back, for my children who forgive more easily than adults, and for learning that family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up even after you've messed up." She looked at me across the table. "I'm grateful for my dad, who taught me what real love looks like, even when I forgot." My throat tightened. I nodded, unable to speak. After dinner, we gathered in the living room. Derek put on Christmas music, and the kids played with their new toys. Adults sat around drinking coffee and eating cookies Claire had made. At one point, Amanda sat down next to me on the couch. "Can we talk outside for a minute?" she asked. We bundled up and stepped out onto the front porch. The night was cold and clear, stars visible above the streetlights. Amanda handed me an envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a check for $10,000 and a handwritten letter. I read the letter by the porch light. "Dad, I can't undo the past, but I can honor what you gave me. This is the money you gave us for our down payment. I've been saving it up over the past year. I wanted to pay you back, not because I have to, but because I want to. You sacrificed everything for me, and I took it for granted. I'm sorry. Thank you for teaching me that love isn't about what someone can give you, but about who shows up when it matters. You always showed up. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see that. I love you. Amanda." I folded the letter carefully, tears in my eyes. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. For me, not for you. I needed to take responsibility, to make amends in real, tangible ways. I'm proud of you." She started crying then, and I pulled her into a hug. We stood on that porch, father and daughter, while inside the house our family celebrated together. "I have something to tell you," Amanda said when we pulled apart. "I've been seeing someone. His name is Jack. Has a teacher. Makes decent money, nothing special. Lives in a modest house. Drives a 10-year-old Honda." I waited, wondering where this was going. "And he's kind. Really kind. He volunteers at a homeless shelter on weekends. Has patient with Emma and Lucas. He doesn't care about status or impressing people. Has just genuinely good." She smiled, wiping her eyes. "I think Mom would like him. I'd like to meet him." "You will. Soon." I wanted to make sure we were okay first. You and me. Before I introduced anyone new into the picture. "We're okay," I said. "We're better than okay." We went back inside, rejoining the warmth and noise of family. Karen caught my eye from across the room and smiled. She'd been right all along. People can change. Sometimes they need to fall apart first, but they can change. As the evening wound down and people started leaving, Emma climbed into my lap. She was tired, her eyes heavy. "Grandpa, is Mommy going to be here for Christmas next year too?" "I hope so, sweetheart." "Good. I like it when everyone is together." "Me too." She fell asleep in my arms, and I held her, thinking about how much had happened in 2 years. The pain, the betrayal, the court battle, the slow rebuilding. It had all led here, to this moment, holding my granddaughter while my family, complicated and imperfect, celebrated together. Derek and Claire walked me to my car when I finally left. I was the last one to go, and it was after 11. "Thank you for tonight," I said, "for including everyone." "Of course," Claire said. Emma was right. Family should be together for Christmas. Derek shook my hand. "Thank you for everything you did, for testifying, for fighting for the kids. I know it wasn't easy. They're worth it." Driving home through the quiet streets, past houses with Christmas lights still glowing, I thought about the journey. 2 years ago, Id sat in my living room, heartbroken and excluded, wondering how my daughter had become someone I didn't recognize. Tonight, Id sat at a table surrounded by family, watching Amanda interact with her children, with Derek and Claire, with everyone, as the person she was always meant to be. Shed lost everything, and found herself, and in doing so, Shed found her way back to us. It wasn't a perfect ending. There were still wounds healing, still trust being rebuilt, but it was real. It was honest. It was family in all its messy, complicated, beautiful reality, and that was enough. The year that followed was full of small victories and continued healing. Amanda's relationship with Jack grew serious. He was everything Shed described. A genuinely kind man who worked as a high school history teacher and coached soccer. When I met him at a spring barbecue at Derek's house, I liked him immediately. He had a firm handshake and looked me in the eye when he spoke. "Mr. Anderson, Amanda's told me a lot about you, about everything that happened. I want you to know I respect what you did, setting boundaries when you needed to. Call me Virgil, and thank you. She's a different person now than she was 2 years ago. I can see it. She's done the work." He was right. Amanda had continued therapy, worked on herself, shown up consistently for her children. Her relationship with Emma and Lucas strengthened as they saw her commitment. She never missed a visitation. She called them every night before bed. She attended school events and soccer games. By summer, Jack and Amanda got engaged. It was a quiet proposal, nothing flashy. They told the family at another Sunday dinner at Derek and Clara's house. Emma squealed with excitement, already planning what dress she'd wear to the wedding. "Will you walk me down the aisle?" Amanda asked me later that evening, her voice uncertain. "I know I don't deserve it after last time. You're my daughter. Of course I will." The wedding was scheduled for October, a small ceremony at the same church where Catherine and I had married almost 40 years ago. Amanda wanted to honor her mother's memory, she said, to connect to her roots instead of running from them. As the wedding approached, Amanda and I spent more time together. We'd meet for coffee, talk about her job, about Jack, about the kids. She asked about my life, my hobbies, my plans. She listened when I talked about the rocking chair I was building or the volunteer work I did at the community center. One afternoon in September, she came to my house and asked to see the wood shop. I showed her the projects I was working on, explained the different tools, the types of wood I preferred. "Dad, do you remember teaching me to use a hammer when I was little? You were 6. We built a birdhouse together." I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten a lot of good memories in my rush to be someone different. She ran her hand along the workbench. "Can you teach me again? Woodworking? I'd like to learn. I'd like to have something we do together." So we started spending Saturday mornings in the shop. I taught her how to measure, how to cut, how to sand with the grain. We worked side by side, building simple projects at first. A small shelf, a picture frame, a step stool for Lucas. Karen visited one Saturday and stood in the garage doorway, watching us work. "You two look like you're doing okay," she said with a smile. "We are," Amanda replied. Finally, the wedding day arrived cool and clear, perfect October weather. The church was decorated simply with white flowers and candles. Family and close friends filled the pews, maybe 60 people total. I stood with Amanda in the church vestibule before the ceremony, both of us in our wedding attire. She wore a simple ivory dress, elegant and understated. Nothing like the elaborate gown from her first wedding. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "That's normal. No, not about marrying Jack. I'm certain about him. I'm nervous about deserving this. Deserving happiness after everything I did." I took her hands. "Amanda, we all deserve second chances. You've done the work. You've changed. You've made amends. Now you get to be happy." The music started, and I walked my daughter down the aisle for the second time. But this time felt different. This time, she wasn't performing for anyone. She was choosing love over status, substance over image, real connection over shallow ambition. Jack waited at the altar with tears in his eyes. The ceremony was beautiful and sincere. They wrote their own vows, promising to be honest, to be present, to choose each other every day. At the reception, held in the church fellowship hall, Derek gave a toast to Amanda and Jack. "May your marriage be built on truth, kindness, and the kind of love that weathers storms." We've all seen what happens when priorities get misplaced. Here's to keeping them straight. It was a gentle reminder, but an important one. Amanda squeezed Jack's hand and nodded, accepting the wisdom in Derek's words. Later in the evening, Amanda asked me to dance. As we moved slowly to the music, she said, "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I never gave up. I just stepped back and let you find your way. That must have been hard. The hardest thing I've ever done." harder than losing your mother. Because with your mother, I had no choice. With you, I chose to let you fall, knowing it might mean losing you forever. But you didn't lose me. No, you found yourself and came back. As the song ended, she hugged me tight. I love you, Dad. I'm sorry for everything, and am grateful for everything. Both. The evening wound down, and Amanda and Jack left for their honeymoon, a modest trip to a cabin in the mountains. Emma and Lucas stayed with Derek and Claire, and I drove home feeling at peace. Over the next months, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Amanda and Jack bought a small house near Derek and Claire, making co-parenting easier. The kids could walk between houses, spend time with both families seamlessly. Holidays became collaborative efforts. Thanksgiving at Derek and Claire's, Christmas Eve at Amanda and Jack's, Christmas Day at my house. Reviving old traditions. Easter at Karen's. Everyone together, everyone included. One Sunday in spring, almost 3 years after that devastating Christmas phone call, I hosted a barbecue at my house. The whole family came. Derek, Claire, and the kids. Amanda, Jack, Karen, Tom, Emily, Grant, and their families. Derek's parents even drove up from Cincinnati. We filled my backyard with laughter, food, and joy. I stood by the grill, flipping burgers, and watched Emma and Lucas play tag with their cousins. I watched Amanda and Claire talk like friends, genuinely enjoying each other's company. I watched Derek shake Jack's hand. The two men who'd loved Amanda, finding common ground in their shared commitment to Emma and Lucas. Karen came and stood beside me. This is good, Virgil. Really good. It is. You did this, by standing firm when you needed to. By showing Amanda that love has boundaries. She did the hard part. She changed, because you let her face consequences. A lot of parents don't have that courage. As the sun set and people started packing up to leave, Amanda approached me. Dad, Jack and I have news. I raised my eyebrows. I'm pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather again. Joy flooded through me. That's wonderful, sweetheart. We're hoping for a girl. If it is, we'd like to name her Catherine, after Mom. If that's okay with you. Tears filled my eyes. I pulled Amanda into a hug. Your mother would be so proud of you. Not for the pregnancy, but for the woman you've become. I hope so. Everyone gathered around when they heard the news. Congratulations flowed freely. Plans were made. Excitement bubbled up. Emma was thrilled at the idea of a baby sister or brother. That night, after everyone left and my house was quiet again, I sat in my living room and thought about the journey. 3 years ago, I'd been excluded from Christmas, heartbroken and confused. I'd made the difficult decision to change my will, to set boundaries, to refuse to be manipulated. Those decisions had led to pain, to court battles, to severed relationships. But they'd also led to truth, to Amanda hitting bottom and finding herself, to real change and genuine reconciliation. I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. That boundaries aren't cruelty but respect. That real family isn't about biology or obligation but about who sees your worth, who honors your presence, and who fights to keep you in their life. Amanda had lost everything. Her marriage, her status, her carefully constructed image. But in losing everything, she'd found what mattered. Her children, her family, her integrity, herself. And I'd gained my daughter back. Not the one I'd lost, but someone better. Someone who'd been broken and rebuilt, who'd learned humility and grace, who'd discovered that love isn't about what you can get, but about who you choose to be. The road had been painful. There were scars that might never fully fade, but we'd walked it together, even when we were apart. And we'd come out the other side stronger. That Christmas, almost exactly 3 years after the phone call that changed everything, we gathered at Derek and Clara's house again. The table was even larger this year, accommodating more family, more love, more second chances. Before dinner, I stood to speak. Everyone quieted, looking at me. 3 years ago, I spent Christmas alone, excluded, heartbroken. I thought I'd lost my daughter forever. But I learned something important. Love without respect isn't love. And sometimes you have to let people go so they can find their way back. I looked at Amanda, who was wiping tears. Amanda found her way back, and in doing so, she taught all of us about courage, about admitting mistakes, about changing, about choosing substance over image, truth over pretense, love over everything else. I raised my glass. To family, to second chances, to showing up, even when it's hard, to making room at the table for everyone. Everyone raised their glasses, voices joining in agreement. As we ate dinner, surrounded by love and laughter, I looked around that table, at my grandchildren, happy and secure, at my daughter, genuinely at peace, at Derek and Claire, who'd shown extraordinary grace, at Jack, who'd loved Amanda through her healing, at my sister and her family, who'd stood by me, at Derek's parents, who'd embraced forgiveness. There was room at this table, room for everyone, room for mistakes and redemption, room for broken things to be made whole. And I realized that's what family really is. Not perfection, but presence. Not pretense, but truth. Not obligation, but choice. The choice to show up, to forgive, to include, to love. This Christmas, we'd all chosen love. And that made all the difference. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love, even though it broke your heart? Have you watched someone you care about lose their way and had to decide whether to enable them or let them face consequences? It's one of the hardest decisions we ever make. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own family relationships, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need reminding that love means making hard choices, that boundaries are healthy, and that people can change if we give them the space to do so. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some wisdom, or at least some company in whatever you're facing. Remember, family is complicated, love is messy, but showing up matters. Keep showing up. For yourself and for the people who truly value your presence. May you find peace in your relationships, courage in your choices, and room at your table for the people who matter most.